Hello and welcome to part 6 of the comprehensive guide to the self-treatment of patella maltracking. Part 6 deals with the unweighted squat for patella maltracking sufferers. So what I'm going to do in this section is I'm going to start off looking at how the technique of the unweighted squat will look ultimately. But then I'm going to start going through progressions to show you how you're going to be able to get there, because it's highly unlikely, if you've got very painful knees now, that you'll be able to do the exercise in its proper form, because in its proper form it will put a fair amount of load through the knees, which will probably be too painful for you. So I'm going to show you a way to get back into doing squatting exercises, but without it hurting the knees as much, and trying to get a bit of confidence back into your knees in bent positions and putting that load through during the bent positions. And then we'll progress through until we get back to the proper technique again, and then when we're back to the proper technique, then I'll go through a few things in detail about how the proper technique should be. So hang with it. Hopefully you'll find a way to get putting weight through bent legs again. Okay, so what I'm doing now is this is kind of the ultimate technique that we're hoping to reach towards for the unweighted squat. As I said, you probably won't be able to do this style of unweighted squat quite now, because what you'll notice is I'm using a combination of kind of hip and knee strength, and the knees are kind of travelling to the end of the foot there. Now, if somebody had asked me back when my patella maltracking was at its worst, to do a squat exercise where the knee moves at all along in the direction of the foot, I would have said, well, what are you talking about? Yeah, there's just no way I would know how to do it, because it would have hurt too much. So I've been there, so I appreciate you won't be able to do it in this way yet. So we're going to look at some easier versions of this that don't place as much of the load on the knees, and then we're going to come back to this and then talk through some of the specifics that are going on in there in more detail. One of the first ways that you can make the squat less painful on the knees is starting with a higher platform. So this is a 17.5-inch bench with a 2-inch wooden block on the top. So you've got a 19.5-inch platform to squat to, which is much higher than the 14.5-inch platform that I was squatting to earlier when I was doing the proper exercise. So that's one way I've made it easier on your knees already. The second way that you can make it easier on your knees is to do an exaggerated sit back with the hips. Okay, so what this does is this means the knee won't travel as far along the foot as when you do the squat in the total pure way. You'll have noticed when I did the proper technique, my knees travelled along my feet until pretty much the edge of the toes there. Of course, they were pushed slightly outwards, like we covered in the fourth part of the series, looking at the calf stretch. But what we'll do here is that the knee will only travel a little way along the foot. They'll go out quite wide, and you'll make up the difference by just leaning forwards more. Okay, so it isn't 100% proper squat, but you won't be able to do 100% proper squat now, so there's no point in even trying. So what I'm doing here, you can see I'm leaning forwards a lot, I'm pushing my knees out a lot, and you can probably see my knees haven't actually bent that much forwards. The shins have only inclined a little bit, but I've still managed to maintain the balance. So there you go again, knees are going out wide, I'm leaning forwards a lot. And yes, it probably does look a bit strange, but the good thing about it is my knees can barely feel a thing. There's such little load going through the knees. It's a great way for you to build your confidence back again, having some sort of movement through a bent knee, but without it hurting too much. But don't get me wrong, if you've got bad patella maltracking, even this will hurt now. But stick with it, because it'll start to build the strength in the rest of your back and hips. And then when you combine it with the sissy squats from part 5, you'll start getting your knees functioning proper again. So the next stage in the progression is to start lowering the platform down. You'll do this fraction by fraction, so you might be squatting to a 19.5-inch platform, then a 19-inch platform, 18.5-inch platform. Just take the platform down piece by piece as you can handle it. What we've got here is we're back to the 14.5-inch platform. I'm going to show you a squat to this lower platform, but with this short knee travel that we were looking at earlier. So I'll show you that you can even get to a box which takes your thighs pretty much to parallel, but without your knees really moving forward too much. So here we go. It's quite difficult to maintain a decent position with your spine when you do this, but that isn't actually as much as a problem as you think, because we don't have a bar on our backs and this is unloaded, we can kind of get away with a slightly not right back. It doesn't matter as much. So what's going on here is I'm pushing the knees out wide, I'm sitting the hips back a lot, very far, I'm leaning forwards a lot, and the knees aren't having to go forward that much. Okay, so if that was too painful, you could try putting the stance a little bit wider. You need quite flexible adductors here, so you'd have to be looking at that adductor stretch that I showed in the foam rolling thing, which was in part 3. You can see here, when I'm pushing the knees a bit wider, okay, the shins haven't had to incline forward as much, and yet I've still managed to get down to this low box. So it's a bit funky, it's a funny way to do the squat, but again, it's minimising that load on the knee, whilst getting you now working to a slightly better range of motion. So once you've got the hang of doing the squats down to parallel with minimal knee travel, it's time to start looking at increasing the amount of knee travel that we're doing along the foot. Bear in mind that whilst you're working on all these squats, over the weeks and months you'd also be working on improving your sissy squats. So your quads and your patella tracking will be improving day by day. So you'll be able to start making increases in the distance that the foot travels along the foot as you go along with this. So let me just show you what that actually looks like. I'm going to do a minimal knee travel one here first, and then I'm going to just shuffle myself along. So I'm actually going to take sort of kind of a normal shoulder width stance and kind of about 30 degrees toes here, and I'm going to sit way back. So I'm sitting way back, trying to use as little knee as possible and really keep the shins not too far forward. So there you can see the knees haven't really travelled very much along my feet. But what you do is gradually over time you would start to, at the bottom of the position, see the knee travelling a little bit further along, a little bit further, until you get to here, which is about the optimal, which is actually the knee going very slightly past the edge of the outer toes. And then when you're in this kind of position, you're using, I like to call it, using half back strength and half leg strength, or half hip and half knee, half quad, half hamstring and glute. And it's a better balance to the minimal knee travel squat that you've been forced to use in the early days because of your patella maltracking problem. So when you actually do manage to get to this kind of distance of knee travel, you'll feel that the squat has a better balance of that leg strength and back strength. Whereas when you're doing this style, you feel it's just all coming from your back and you're doing very little with the legs. But sometimes needs must, and that'll be how we'll get there.